Hello and welcome to the channel. For today's tutorial, I'll be sharing with you how I made this dress, and in our previous video I drafted out the dress pattern. So if you haven't seen it yet, please go down to my YouTube channel, or I'm going to leave a link at the description box. And if it's your first time viewing my channel, please like, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and don't forget to turn on the notification button. And if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for always subscribing. So let's start. So here is my pattern I'm done cutting out for both the lining and the material of the dress. So the first part I will be working with is the upper part of the dress, and I'm going to take the back part. So next I'll be cutting out a gum stay for the back part of my upper dress, and I'll be ironing a gum stay to the lining part. So I'm going to unpin my pattern from the fabric and lining, and I'm going to explain to you. So this way you're going to take this particular pattern. After ironing gum stay on it, you're going to turn and you're going to sew on this part on the side with 1/2 inch, or the upper part and the other side. So you're going to be leaving this part open because you're going to be turning it from that part. So after doing that, I'll go ahead and insert my dart, and I will do it for the both back of the upper bodies. So moving along, for the front part of the upper dress, I'm going to place my pattern, and I will also cut out gum stay. So while cutting out your gum stay, also remember you're going to add 1/2 inch round, just the way you added 1/2 inch round when you were cutting your fabric with this pattern. So I'll go ahead and I will cut out the pattern. After cutting the pattern, I'll go ahead and I will unpin the pattern from it, and this is what my gum stay looks like after cutting it out. So next, what I'm going to do is to place my lining on the gum stay, and I'm going to iron the gum stay on it. So moving over to this part of the upper part of the dress, I'm also going to cut out gum stay for this. I'm just going to place my material on the gum stay, and I will trace out. So after cutting out my gum stay, this is what I have. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place my pattern according to the way I'm going to join it. So I'm going to take the gum stay that I've cut out, and I'm going to place, then I'm going to place my lining on it this way, and you're going to iron. And make sure when you're placing your gum stay, the shiny part is facing up, because by the time you're done ironing, it's going to stick on the lining of your dress. Then I'm going to bring the center piece, and also I have cut out gum stay for it. So next I'm going to show you how to join it. To join it, you're going to flip it and sew it 1/2 this way, and you're going to place this one this way, and you're going to sew with 1/2 inch. So after this, I'll be moving along to cutting the wording for the bust area. So to cut my wording, I'm going to place my pattern on it, and I'm going to take note of my 1/2 length, because that's where the wording will start. And I'm going to flip my pattern up, and when cutting for your center piece, make sure you place your wording on fold, and also add 1/2 inch round your pattern, because you're going to be adding a joining allowance. And remember, this is the original pattern and it has no joining allowance. So while cutting, I'm not going to add 1/2 on top of the pattern. So after cutting out, this is what I have, and I'm going to place the shiny parts this way, and I'm going to place my pattern. Then going over to the side, I'm going to place my pattern on it this way, and I'm also going to take note of my under bust, and I'm going to use a pin to hold the pattern down to the wording. And at my bust point, I'm going to place my tape and measure my nipple to nipple divided by 2, and I'll mark 1 inch, or you can mark 1/2 inch. So next, I'm going to be taking note of the under bust line. That's where I'll be cutting my pattern from. So I'm going to fold it down this way, and I'm going to cut through it. So after cutting it, I'll be heading to the other side of the pattern also. So at this point, you can just make a sketch or you can just cut it out immediately. So I'm just going to cut it through. So before cutting out, make sure you mark your nipple to nipple divided by 2 plus 1 or half inch. So at my wording at the upper part, I didn't add half inch. So the reason why I did that is to reduce bulkiness on top while sewing on that part, especially if you're using a thick wording. So after cutting out, I'm just going to unpin my pattern from my wording, and this is what I have. So I'm making use of a light wording. You can as well use an already made cup or a thicker wording. So I'm going to place my wording on the fabric, and I'll make sure the shiny part is facing the material, the back part of the material, and I'm going to go ahead and I will iron it. After ironing it on it, so I'm going to do a brief explanation on how you're going to join it before I'll go ahead and iron it and join it also. So you're going to take this part and you're going to sew with half inch, and then you're going to flip it to the other side also, and you're going to sew with half inch just the same way from the beginning of the dress down to the lower part. So I'll go ahead and iron and also join my pattern. So after joining the front part of my pattern, this is what I have and this is what it's looking like. So I'm going to put my tailor's ham or my tailor's ball under, and I'm going to iron it. So I'll be ironing for both parts of the bust side, and it's very important to iron at this part. So in case you don't have a tailor's ham, I have a video on how to make a tailor's ham, and I'm going to leave the link at the description box. So after ironing, this is what I have, and I'm going to bring my lining parts where I iron my gum stay, and I'm going to pin the lining to my main fabric. So I'll pin down the neckline or the top of the dress, and I'll also pin the sides. Now I'll be sewing on both sides of the fabric, and I will leave the under part because I will be turning it open from that part. So after sewing, this is what it's looking like, and I'm going to notch the dress so that it will be more relaxed. So I'll go ahead and notch the upper part, the side and the middle joining. So after doing that, I'll go ahead and I will flip my dress open from the under part. After flipping it to the other side, this is what I have. This is what my pattern is looking like. Then I'll go ahead and I will also bring out my back pattern, and this is what the back pattern looks like. I've gone ahead to sew it with my lining and also attach that to the back. So what I'm going to do now is to sew the skirt part of this dress, and like I said in our previous video, I minus 2.5 inches from my lining. So the reason why I did that is to add a turn up effect to the skirt, and remember we added 2 inches extra to our dress pattern. So I'm going to place the lining on this material this way at the end, and I'm going to sew with half inch. So after sewing with half inch, this is what I have at this part. So I'm going to flip the material this way, and I'm going to measure about 1.5 inches after the half inch that I have already sewed. And after doing that, I'm going to also sew for this other side. So before I do that, I'll also measure that 1.5 inches after that, and I'm going to sew with half straight down. So after sewing, notice your skirt and lining will align. So after sewing, this is what my skirt looks like, and I'm going to flip it open from that side. So after flipping it to the right side, this is what my skirt looks like, and I'm also going to sew the other side of the skirt, and this is the turn up effect I told you that you'll be having at the lower part of the skirt. So I've also sewed the other part of the skirt, and I also have that turn up effect also at that part. So next step, we'll be turning the front part of the skirt also. So this is what I have. If you notice, I have a line at the center, so I mistakenly slit my lining into two when I was cutting, so I went ahead to join it back. So I'm going to place my lining this way, and I also minus 2.5 inches from the lining, and I'm going to place it on my material, and I'm going to be sewing with 1/2 inch down. After sewing with 1/2 inch, just like I did at the back, I'm going to also measure 1.5 inches just the same way, and after doing that, I'll sew with 1/2 inch. And also at this side, I'm going to do the same. I'm going to measure 1.5 inches away from the fabric, and I'm going to sew with 1/2 inch. I'm done sewing, and this is what my skirt looks like. Next, I will be flipping it to the right side also. So after turning it, this is what I have, and if you can see, the skirt also has a turn up effect at the lower part of the skirt also. And I'm going to turn the skirt back to the right side, or the part facing the material. So what I'll do next is to find the middle of the skirt, and to do that, I'll fold my skirt into two, and I'm going to notch the center. So the reason why I'm doing this is that I want to attach the upper part of this dress to the lower part of this dress also. So I'm going to pick the upper part of the front pattern, and I'm also going to fold it into two to find the center, and I'm also going to notch it. So after notching it, I'll be placing it together with the lower part of the dress, and I'm going to join it. And to join, I'm going to take the notch part of the upper part and the notched part of the lower part, and I'm going to sew with 1/2 inch to the end. So after joining, this is what the front pattern looks like. After joining that part, I'll be joining the back part of the dress. So I'm going to bring the skirt part, and also bring the upper parts of the dress, and I'm going to place it this way, and I'm going to join with 1/2 inch. So after joining with 1/2 inch, this is what I have. So I'm going to flip the other side of the dress on it this way, and I'm going to be marking the part for my zip. So I'm going to take my tape and place it from that joining part, and I'll measure 10 inches downwards. So that's where my zip will stop. So from there, I'm just going to go in by 1 inch, and I'm going to mark. So this point I'm marking now, I'm going to sew on it. After sewing on it, it will be creating a slit for the back, and I'll go ahead and insert my zip. So after inserting my zip, this is what my pattern looks like. So next, we'll be moving over to the sleeve of the dress. So for the sleeve of the dress, I'll also be working with an elastic band. So I'm working with a tiny elastic band. I'll spread my pattern open, and at the upper part, I'm just going to sew with 1/2 inch, and I'm going to sew all the way down. Going to the lower part also, I'm going to fold that part with 1/2 inch also. So at one end, I will be passing my elastic through it. So I'm done sewing. So next, I'll be passing elastic at the upper part of this sleeve. So another thing you need to take note of is the measurement or the length of the elastic you want to pass through the sleeve. So I'm going to measure about 10 inches, and I'm going to cut. So this 10 inches is not a standard, it depends on what you're working with. So I'm just going to cut out 10 inches just like I said, and I will be passing it through this part of the sleeve, and I'll be doing it for the both side of the sleeve. At the upper part, that's where you'll be passing the elastic. Next, I'll show you how to sew your second elastic band for the sleeve. So after inserting my elastic, this is what I have at the upper part of the sleeve. So coming down to the lower part of the sleeve, I'm going to place my tape at the hem, and I'm going to measure about 5.5 inches and I'm going to make a mark. So note, this 5.5 inches is not a standard, so depending on what you want to use for the down part of your sleeve. After measuring 5.5 inches all through, I'm going to cut out about 8 inches or 7 inches elastic and I'm going to sew on that point, and it will give it a gathers effect. So I'll go ahead and I'm going to sew the elastic band. So after sewing the elastic band for the sleeve, this is what I have. So next you're going to flip your sleeve this way and you're going to sew with 1/2 inch to the end of your sleeve. So I'll go over to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew. So whatever I do to this other part, I'm going to do to the other part of the sleeve also. So I'm done sewing the sleeve and this is what I have. So next I will be shaping the dress, and to shape that I'm going to place my tape at my under bust. So I'm going to make a mark. So from that under bust I'm going to get my bust point, which is 9 inches, and if you notice it's exactly at my bust point. So I'll place my tape at my under bust and I'm going to mark my waist, and after that I'll go ahead and measure 7 inches to get my hip point, and I'm going to mark. Next thing is to insert the body circumference. So to shape the bustier area of my dress, I'm going to place it at the center and I will measure. So I have 5.8 and my bust circumference is 33. 33 divided by 2, I have 16.5. Then I will be minusing 5.8 from 16.5. So after minusing, I have 10.7. So that 10.7, I'll be sharing it into 2 for the 2 sides of the remaining bustier. So after sharing it to 2, I have 5.3, and that 5.3, I will be marking it at both sides. Now, to make your bustier area very tight, or the bust area very tight, I'm just going to mark 5 inch and I'm going to remove that point 0.3 on it. Then going down to the under bust, I'm going to measure what I have at the center of the under bust, and I have 5 inches. So my under bust circumference is 28. 28 divided by 2, I have 14. Now that 14 inches, you're going to be minusing that 5 inches from it. After minusing it, you're going to have 9. Now I'm going to share that 9 inches into 2 places. Sharing it, I have 4.5 and I'm going to mark 4.5 at the both sides. So I'll go down to the waist. At the waist, I'll measure what I have, which gives me 18.5. And my waist circumference is 28 inches. So that 28, I'm going to divide it by 2 and it's going to give me 14. Now I'm going to minus 14 from that 18.5 and I have 4.5. And that 4.5, I'll be sharing it into 2 parts. So after sharing it, I'm just going to place one on one part and I'm going to mark. So from that part, I'll measure down and mark my 14 inches. So going down to my hip part, I'm also going to place my tape and measure what I have at that point. And I have 22.5 inches. Now my hip circumference is 40. 40 divided by 2, I have 20. And I'm going to be minusing 20 from that 22.5 and I have 2.5. Sharing the 2.5 inches into 2. After doing that, I'm just going to place a mark at that point. So from there, I will place my tape and I will mark my 20 inches hip circumference. After marking that, I'll be heading downwards. So to the down part of my dress, I'm just going to mark 1.5 inches. If you want it to be very tight and fitted, you can mark 2 inches. If you want to be a bit moderate, you can just mark 1.5 at both sides. And if you want it to be free, you can just mark 1 inches at the lower part. And then I'm going to connect all the lines. So after connecting this part, I'll also connect the other part and I'll go over to the sewing machine and I'm going to sew. I'm done shaping, this is what I have, and the next thing is to attach the sleeve to the dress. So I'm going to take the part that I've joined and I'm going to stitch it on this part. This way. I'm just going to stitch it as this is. So after doing this, I'll also stitch the other side and I'm going to bring it and show you. And this is my final look, and with this we have come to the end of the tutorial. If you find this tutorial very interesting and educative, please like, share and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and don't forget to turn on the notification button to get new updates from my channel whenever I post new video, and also leave your comments at the comment section. Thank you.